Those beings that you've ingested and you've given life to, you can tap into that psychedelic experience whenever you want to. I mean, I do it a lot.
Cannabis truly is a pharmacy and a flower.
Survival comes with cooperation.
Pleasure is healing.
You're being a warrior of the weird.
I'm Lex Pelger, Director of Education at CV Sciences, and this is the Lex Files. Today we dive deep into mystic territory with Mary Porter. She co-founded the Looking Glass Peyote Church with her husband Larry, and she's a healer who helps people reach what she calls higher dimensional thinking. The last time I talked to Mary in person, it was across the kitchen table at her home in the Pacific Northwest. And so it warms my heart to still hear the sounds of that kitchen in the background and Larry making his coffee. The last time we talked, Mary shared many rollicking stories of her life before the church and her years as a sergeant of arms in a motorcycle gang. But today, as 2020 comes to a close, she was intense and bitingly funny on the things that matter, on the importance of spirituality, on the power of psychedelics for those who are ready for them, and how much work it takes to make yourself ready for them. She talks about the importance of moving from three-dimensional thinking into fourth and fifth dimensional thinking, and how we can all benefit from an indigenous connection to Mother Earth. Like peyote and most psychedelics, Mary and her church are not for the faint of heart. She can take one look at you and decide whether you're far enough on the path to take that next big step. So, are you on the right path? Are you ready for that big step? Listen, and you might just hear some answers from this week's guest, Mary Porter. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be joined here by Mary Porter. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, Lex. It's really good to hear your voice, and I'm glad that we got the chance to connect.
Me too. It's always good to catch up. If you could perhaps give some background on where you grew up and what you were up to before you were one of the co-founders of the Looking Glass Peyote Church, and what brought you there?
Well, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, in the ghetto. I was raised by my grandmother. I was an abandoned child. She was the aunt to my mother and father. And I was raised by my grandmother. And had a lot of foster brothers from other reservations. And I fell into the motorcycle community, which I was real comfortable with, and I'm, real happy for that experience. So I can, move forward with what I'm doing with this peyote church. My husband and I founded this church after a very profound experience I had at Sundance in McDermott, Nevada, and then again had some other profound peyote experiences that led me to and my husband to open this church for anybody of any race. We both wholeheartedly think that people are, it doesn't have anything to do with genetics. It has to do with your spiritual integrity and your spiritual maturity. And we want to do this because we know that at this time, there's so much spiritual evolution going on in so many levels. And it's been going on, but it's very intense right now. So we just wanted to try to make it available to people to understand their, these dimensional realities that make them a person, make these plant medicines and these plant teachers available to people with the mindset that is indigenous and not from European thinking. I just think that there's a very strong need for people to become indigenous, which all it means is that you're connected to the earth. Just because somebody says you're not indigenous anymore doesn't really make it so, unless you accept that. So people can take responsibility and become, connected to the earth. So we want to make sure that people get the opportunity to experience that for themselves on their own terms.
And so when people reach out to you who are interested in coming for an experience, what kind of spiritual maturity are you looking for? And what are some warning signs of perhaps someone's not ready yet or it's not their time yet?
A lot of people's language and their mannerisms give them totally away. What I find for my best guide to the type of spiritual maturity I'm looking for is, for example, some people call it the fifth dimension. I'm looking for people who are at the end of the fourth and into the fifth and understand that there's, more work that they need to do. And the way I can tell, for example, somebody who is definitely not ready, somebody that is just rooted into the third dimension, and they're not ready to move forward. I have a new questionnaire that I have people fill out, and just by what they say and how it's presented, I can tell where they're at, and how, that they need more work on themselves or whatever. So, for example, for someone who's stuck in the third dimension, they strictly obey rules and obligations and traditions. And I'm talking about, like traditions. I can give, for example, some of the native people have really disapproved of what I'm doing because it goes against what they call tradition. That's my example of someone who, is stuck in the third dimension. So, an example of the fourth dimension in the same terms, as they evolve and they're moving into the fourth dimension from disobeying rules, obligations, and traditions, as they move into the fourth dimension, they start to question the rules and they question the obligations and traditions, and they decide on their own what is right and what is wrong, instead of just, having this, this is what they've been told and this is what you obey, So that's going from the third dimension to the fourth dimension. And what I'm looking at, and I mean, I've probably gone too far already, but someone who is moving into the fifth dimension, you understand, and you start understanding and seeing that they're following their inner guidance. They aren't looking for what everybody else is doing or whatever. They're moving as nature is progressing them. So I don't know if that explains it, but as far as spiritual maturity goes, I just absolutely cut off third dimension people. They need more work than I have the energy to give. So
I like that description of the fifth dimension and how you connected it to the patterns of the earth and going with the flow. And would that be more of an indigenous way of living, is paying attention to the big cycles and patterns around us and then trying to live into those patterns? And that's kind of a fifth dimensional kind of living?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this pandemic is giving us all a good chance to sit the goddamn hell down and take a good long look at what we are, what we're doing, and how we're doing it.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you've watched this whole crazy year from afar, from one of the most remote places on the continent. What do you think are some of the big lessons that individuals can be taking away from this year of the pandemic?
Well, guess what? Your behavior is unhealthy with or without a pandemic. No, don't gather. No, don't pay millions of dollars to watch football games. Your behavior is unhealthy. To me, sitting back here, it's like, oh my God, they're going to touch the fire. They're sticking their hand in the fire. They are risking their lives. And nature has laid out this. I mean, it's seriously black and white. This behavior creates this virus, so you must stop behaving this way. Okay? Okay.
The wake-up call.
Duh. I mean, I sometimes I feel like walking around with a pillow thinking, oh my God, what are they going to do next? Jesus Christ, there's, what the hell next? I can't, it's like a train wreck. You can't quit watching it, we limit ourselves. We limit ourselves to how much and where we get our information from. So
towards that healthy living, I mean, you have this church that helps connect people to that when they're ready. Can you tell us about your take on what the peyote is, what the other plant medicines that you know well, what they're here to do, and what it's like for you to work with them and to work with people who are working with them?
These plant medicines are spiritual beings. They were created and put here for our benefit. They aren't for everybody, but everybody can benefit from the knowledge that comes from these plant medicines. But you have to be mature enough and have your ego in check enough to accept what it is that those teachers are telling you. As far as I've had an interesting array of interest, but we're talking about the sacrament, and we're talking about spiritual beings that have trusted me to only expose them to the humans that are ready to take the responsibilities. Because what we do when we take these plant medicines, in essence, we take their life. We kill them, we ingest them, we become their afterlife. So they can work through us as a human being to get the work of the creator and spin of the universe to be right.
That's beautiful. And so what do you do at your church for people getting ready? What are the best practices for readying yourself for this experience?
A lot of meditation. At this point, I do phone calls with people so they can just. A lot of people just need counseling. When I first started this immunotherapy, I started taking. I took cognitive behavioral therapy classes. I took meditation classes. I took all kinds of behavioral therapy classes so that I could help people. So they can if they're ready to, if they ask me for help and they're ready to be helped, I can help them. One young man I've been working with for since COVID started, and he's coming along real well. When COVID is over, I'm sure that his head's tight on straight, and he'll be able to understand what the plant medicines are telling him. The reality is, the thing that is most important for people when they take the plant medicines, and whatever one they take, I can only speak of San Pedro, peyote, and mushrooms. But as far as they're concerned, you need to be spiritually mature and already have all your bullshit in order, so that when you give your life to these spiritual beings, that you'll be able to take their guidance without a bunch of bullshit.
Well said. What does the arc look like? How many times would somebody keep coming back to you to continue their work? Is it different for everybody, or is there a certain trajectory?
It's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. There's one young man. He's started out wanting to work with the peyote, but after months of counseling and going over things with him, he's decided that he wants to experience the San Pedro first and let that integrate, and then use the sacrament. So everybody has these spirit guides, whether you know it or not. When people are inclined to psychedelics, it's because you have a spirit guide that is one of these plant medicines, and you're inclined to that. So, and I can tell, it's I don't know what it is, but some people are inclined to it.
Hey folks, it's sponsor time. The company is CV Sciences, the product is Plus CBD, and the discount code for 20% off is Lex Files. And remember, the top 3 reasons to use that code on pluscbdoil.com. Number 1, I would give Plus CBD to your grandmother, because I gave it to my grandmother. Number 2, I was the biggest skeptic. Then I started studying the endocannabinoid system. Number 3, I know firsthand that CV Sciences is committed to pure science and to enhancing well-being. So when you find yourself in need of CBD from true agricultural hemp, consider Plus CBD, the #1 CBD brand in the United States. That coupon code is Lex Files, and the place to use it is pluscbdoil.com. So for the people who are listening who might not have experienced psychedelics but have felt drawn to them, how would they go about interacting and finding this spirit guide that's already there to help get themselves ready?
Personally connecting yourself whaut any influence aside from your breath and the sunlight or moonlight, whatever time of day it is that you seriously sit down to you can connect with these your spirit guides without any psychedelics or anything at all. There's meditations that I can tell you from experience. I've had a grandfather right in my face, and my hair standing up on the back of my neck. So there are so many other ways to consider before you consider psychedelics.
And you think it'd be good for a lot of people to at least explore those paths somewhat. It sounds like meditation is the biggest one that you talk about.
It is the big one. It is huge. It is huge. I'm telling you, it is huge, especially for someone who's used mushrooms. It's a dimensional thing, it's those beings that you've ingested and you've given life to, you can tap into that psychedelic experience whenever you want to. I mean, I do it a lot. So, I really, I really encourage people to be clean and, no alcohol, be totally clean and, try all of the other avenues of, dimensional reality besides psychedelics, or at least don't fall into which, literally thousands of people have fallen into these pitfalls. And some of the people I've watched them just totally deplete their integrity and everything from, their lack of touch with reality while they're administering or, giving these psychedelics to people. They've abused their authority and they abuse these people's spirituality. And I really, really caution people, your spirituality, you are personally responsible for the safety and security. And if you allow someone to abuse your spirituality through psychedelics or even any other type of spirit bending experience, then that is on you. So you got to remember these things.
What advice would you have for people who would be looking for a guide? What would be the warning signs of you might notice of a guide that you shouldn't be working with, who might be someone who's abusing the power of the sacrament?
Well, you can really tell with their language, how they present themselves. If they present themselves as the intermediary between you and this experience, well, they've lost my attention right away because it's not like that. When you're the minister of this medicine, when people have displayed a certain spiritual maturity, you have to honor that and you have to protect that in all that you do with these people. And if you by chance mutilate them in some way or another spiritually because you haven't worked on yourself, then I can't I can't tell you how many people I've seen fall by the wayside over psychedelics, and they've taken a whole lot of people with them. And that's why I say, there are in my opinion, in my experience with psychedelics, it's experiencing these other dimensional realities, and there are so many ways to understand these before you take psychedelics, or you might not even need them after that.
Yeah, it seems like especially holotropic breathwork is just a way to figure out the map in a much safer way before you get there, and to make sure that you can handle it. It feels like the correct vibe for where you're at.
Yeah, well, internally, we all know what's right and wrong. So, especially when it comes to our spirituality, we know what's right and wrong. So, it's as plain as the knowledge of right and wrong is something that grows in you when you're in the womb, just like hair and teeth and bones. So I anyone who says different is lying to you.
So one of the ways that it sounds like, stirred up some controversy is doing this church your own way and not following all of the old traditions. What would be different in the way that you're approaching this that isn't as traditional, which is different than how other churches or organizations are approaching these plant medicines.
Well, this is an individual experience. You can have the experience with somebody sitting with you, or you can have it alone in a safe place in our forest. Whereas traditionally, there's a group of people, and there's a leader, and there's all types of, songs and words that most people don't understand. A lot of things that people don't understand going on. I prefer that, people keep it to a personal thing between you and nature and you and that plant medicine, and not involve or include anyone else, because that's just how nature works. No one else was in the womb with you. So, these things are experiences that it's not something that can be experienced among a group. Not with the full, focused meaning. That's just, but that's just my, that's just the way I am. I do allow couples or friends, or, 2 or 3 people who know each other that want to experience this together. I do allow that, but I don't allow any type of I want to say reformed guidance, that these things are kept natural, and individual, even though people are together. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach to hear, because I know so often we hear about ayahuasca ceremonies or places like that in other cultures where everybody has to be together, and that's the law of the land. So it's really intriguing to hear about your much more individualistic, one-on-one with your maker approach to it.
Well, the thing that I see mostly when groups of people is the energy that they create. The energy they create with their intelligence. You don't want to mix the intelligence levels and their energies together when they're having an experience. It's irresponsible. I think it's irresponsible.
And so one of the serious issues I think that arises, especially in places like the United States, is fears of cultural appropriation. I'm a white guy from the East Coast, from a middle class family, and there's that feeling of, am I even supposed to be ingesting peyote? I mean, this is from a particular place and culture, and am I invited? Is this right?
You're talking third dimensional thinking.
I do that. It's true.
And I get it. People are comfortable there. Hey, I was comfortable in the third dimension. I was a little tiny bully, but yeah, that's third dimensional thinking. You gotta, you gotta get past that. As human beings, we are one family. Okay, no matter what color we are, we're not apes, we're not dogs, we're not eagles, we're all human beings. So, when people start, segregating people out, that's about when I have to leave, because that's, third dimension is far, that's beneath me. I can't, you have to encourage people to move forward with their thinking.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about your thoughts on the importance of peyote and where the human family is right now?
Well, if people who have had their experience and have taken peyote as their teacher, this is the time when we have to be strong and be helpful in correcting people and helping them move forward. It's not so much at this point. It's, right now we're done with the lessons. This is real life, and this is what we have to do. We have to help people. We have to help people with their thinking, get beyond the third dimensional thinking, help them understand that we live in an evolutionary reality. You cannot sit stagnant. Nature will not allow it. We've moved. The age of this earth has moved forward. Earth and nature cannot and will not be bent by mankind. The laws of nature are extremely clear. I mean, anyone who has ears and bones and skin and teeth, you know what the laws of nature are because you use those in the womb to grow. So, reach down deep, everyone, because it's all there.
The last question I wanted to ask is, what is the future for the Looking Glass Peyote Church? What are you excited about coming up?
I actually have a young man that I've been training again. This is my third run at it, but I've been working with a young man that has wanted to work in the medicine, and at some point he will be helping me here administering the medicine, because it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time, and my health hasn't been great, so I have to think about preparations for other people. But I do have a really nice young man that I'm looking forward to having him work with people too. And I also found out that I can ordain, I call them clerics, but anyone can call themselves anything they want. But I can ordain clerics or priests or whatever you want to call yourselves. And all it takes is I think a few dollars to license with your state or whatever, license with your country, and you're federally and state recognized as a minister. So I'm looking forward to, finding, these people who have, a lot of good energy that they want to, help people look inside, because, that's what really Looking Glass is all about, is, looking inside yourself, finding the answers inside yourself. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing today, Mary. That's a beautiful vision of the future, and it's great to hear what you shared today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in. To listen to other episodes, check out pluscbdoil.com, listen on all the podcast platforms, or see us on YouTube. Subscribe to the CV Sciences YouTube channel to see each new episode. And if you'd like to buy any of our fine products, use the coupon code Lex Files for 25% off. If you have any questions, compliments, or suggestions, feel free to write me at research@cvsciences.com, and please follow the podcast on Twitter @The Lex Files Show, where I try to keep it fun. If you enjoyed this program, please give us a like on your favorite platform or share a link to your social media. It means a lot to us. The Lex Files is produced by Matt Payne. The YouTube videos are by Brendan Cleek. Thank you to Tina Molnar and Jasmine Morris for the visuals, and the music is by Jake Bradford Sharp. Our sponsor is CV Sciences, makers of America's favorite CBD oil. And I'm Lex Pelger, signing off.